My grandmother passed away this morning, and I've been sitting here sort of contemplating. I think it's now kind of hitting me a little bit more that she's gone and what that even means. And in the past, I've looked at situations like this. Like, I've lost both of my parents, I lost both of them within 2 years of each other. And it's interesting because in the past, and I think I learned some of this from the field of psychology, I would have written them a letter or tried to feel their presence somehow or convince myself that I felt their presence. But the word tells me that we're not supposed to call on the dead, that when you die, it's not like anyone's watching over you. These are things that we make up in order to make ourselves feel better. The word says you're going to return to the dust and you're going to rest until the time comes for you to rise, to come to life in the resurrection. So there's no purgatory. There's no you go straight up to heaven or wherever it is that you're destined to go. You don't even go directly to the lake of burning sulfur. When the resurrection takes place, people are going to be coming out of their tombs and their graves. And the word says that you go to rest, and then you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance or condemnation. And it got me thinking, because when you know the truth, you start to posture your heart correctly. And then you start to live in truth. And so my inclination was not to try to tap into my grandmother's presence, which, sounds ridiculous, but it's something that the world acts like that's normal. Even saying stupid things that they call Christian, like, oh, they're watching over you. I mean, even when my dad died and my mom died, I thought, well, you know what? They're going to be with me more now than they ever were when they were here on earth. Nope, not really. And actually, they can't do anything for me anyway. It's a way of replacing God. Oh, God's not watching over me. My parents are watching over me. They must love me so much more than God. They're going to fight even more for me. I mean, what would my parents even be capable of doing? They're not capable of doing anything. So really, that's an attempt to replace God and make yourself feel more comfortable about something that was tangible to you. And so what I did instead was I went to God and I just prayed for her soul. And I am aware that she's not going to make it in the first resurrection. She's just not. I know the way that she lived. I know the things that she said to me, even, telling me things like we'd get done with a Bible study and we'd be talking about something and I would understand that situation from the lens of what God is doing, and she would say things like, don't make everything about God. And I'd just be like, blah, 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 what? Like, we just got done reading the Bible. How are you going to go deny God? Everything for me is about God. I mean, if that makes me a fanatic in your eyes, don't listen to me. But he's the one who created me for his purpose, and so I'm going to understand everything that I'm going through and everything everyone else is going through from the perspective of what's my sovereign God doing? Not from the perspective of, oh, he doesn't see what I'm doing right now. He only sees me when I'm in a counterfeit church on Sunday. Being Christian. Very different perspective. Totally different perspective. And it also led me to, that understanding also led me to pray for my mother and my father. And just to hope that they will be given a second chance, that they'll be given that chance in a second resurrection. There is a second resurrection. If you haven't heard of it, then go look in the Bible where it says first resurrection. If there's a first, there's got to be a second. The second resurrection occurs after the 1,000-year reign of the priests of God with Christ, when Satan is unbound. And the rest of the dead come to life. Those who have not received the mark of the beast, they come to life to be given another chance. And Satan is released and he goes out to the four corners of the earth and he tries to deceive again. And even though all these people would have risen and participated in the bowls of wrath and the being slain in the first death by the double-edged sword coming out of Christ's mouth. So here they've been given this opportunity to be convicted, because that's what the double-edged sword is. It's the truth. So you're being convicted and slain through that conviction. Yet there will be some who will be saved in this second chance, but the majority, again, are going to be so stupid to be deceived after all that. I mean, where do they think conviction comes from, right? They will just forget everything that God has done. Anyway, I wanted to take this time to just acknowledge my grandmother passing on, and to acknowledge the way that we truly need to regard the physical death of our family members. I am not grieved that my grandma is gone in the physical. I'm not even grieved that my parents are gone in the physical. I actually feel a little relieved for them because this life is really hard. What I'm grieved about is that these people never came to truth. And so when people die, these are the things that I pray about. These are the things I think about. And this is immediately where I go is, Lord, please save their soul. Please give them that opportunity, according to your will, in the second resurrection, to be saved, even only as one escaping the flames. I also would be remiss if I did not mention to you and acknowledge that in a little less than 2 years, there will not be an opportunity for those who die to participate in that second resurrection, because once that fifth trumpet blows and the witnesses are killed, first of all, no one repents. No one returns to God at that point. So whatever people think they're doing in counterfeit Christianity is just going to be delusion. The woes begin at that point because people have killed God's prophets for the last time. And so we see in Revelation 9 that after those plagues of the fifth and sixth trumpets, no one repents. And we see elsewhere in Revelation that the only people who are going to be saved are those whose name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, at this point, who have received the seal of the Lamb, which they received before those 7 trumpets blew, or they will receive the mark of the beast. They will bow and worship its image. All will receive the mark of the beast and will worship the image, except those whose names have been written in the Lamb's Book of Life. All at this point in history. So that changes things, doesn't it? I mean, for me, to know that my grandmother passed away and my parents passed away before all of this really is sort of a blessing. I mean, it's obvious that they're not going to make it in the first resurrection, but it is a blessing to know that they passed away at that point, because they might have a chance in the second resurrection. Only God knows, but I hold out hope for that. I won't be here after the fifth trumpet. I'm going to be killed at the fifth trumpet. From that time on, when people are dying and they have not returned to God, there's going to be a different kind of grief that you're going to be feeling. And so that puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Anyone who dies after that fifth trumpet, except for the witnesses, obviously, if they have not returned to God prior to that fifth trumpet, and they're not bearing the fruit of being in him, of being servants of God, if they are not martyred for God's name, they will not be saved. They will not be saved. Let's look at where that is. Revelation 13. We're going to read the whole chapter, or at least up until verse 8. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast its power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now, he's been talking right here. 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 crowns on its horns, and each had a blasphemous name. That's the Antichrist. It is Catholicism, which was the original Antichrist that persecuted God's people, was drunk on the blood of God's martyrs, and that began counterfeit Christianity. So it is Catholicism and the prostitutes that bore out of her. In Revelation, it talks about Babylon the Great and the prostitutes that bore out of her. This is the Antichrist kingdom. And the dragon, Satan, is giving his power over to the Antichrist kingdom. Just so that you can understand this symbolism, because it gets a little cumbersome. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had... I already read that. Never mind. Verse 3. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now, what they're talking about is when Catholicism was in power, and in Revelation 17, John is told that this beast was, now is not, from the perspective of John, who was in the sixth kingdom of atheistic communism in the vision, was, now is not, but will rise again. And it is the 8th beast. So it is the 5th beast and the 8th beast. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. So it fell. It still has power, but it's not raining. And at that point, it was raining when it was feeding God's people to wild animals, sawing them in half and, torturing them and burning them at the stake. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshiped the beast and asked who was like the beast, who can wage war against it. So what are we saying here? What are we talking about with regard to worshiping the dragon because he'd given authority to the beast? Well, if you have a kingdom of counterfeit Christianity and you're not worshiping Jesus, you can't tell me that you are celebrating Jesus when you are celebrating a birthday that is not in the Bible, that is according to the Gregorian calendar that Catholicism established, and it is a holiday, not a holy day, a holiday God didn't tell you to celebrate, lifted up to the false god Mithras, which is a god that the Romans have always worshipped, whose birthday is said to have occurred on December 25th and was born of a virgin. Don't tell me you're worshiping Jesus. You don't even know what you're worshiping. You don't even know the pagan practices that you're continuing when you're doing that. People worship the beast who's hiding behind this system of counterfeit Christianity. And in worshiping the beast, they are worshiping the dragon. That's what the word says. They are worshiping Satan. And the word also refers to those who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Those who claim to be Christian, though they are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. A spiritual Jew is one who is circumcised in heart. A spiritual Jew is not necessarily an ethnic Jew. It can include ethnic Jews, but what is ethnicity to God? He doesn't care about that. He established one nation and other nations in order to show you how to be a nation set apart. Ethnicity is nothing. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. Okay? Do you understand that is the Antichrist? If you were confused about it, there you go. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. So it's got global power. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So there's your answer. These people who are living at this point in history are going to worship the beast, or they're going to their name is going to be written in the Lamb's book of life. When does this occur? Well, it occurs when the Antichrist rises, guys. And the Antichrist rises at that fifth trumpet when it rises from the abyss, overpowers and kills the witnesses. That's when you see in Revelation 9 that the star has fallen from the sky. Satan has lost his place in heaven and his angels with them, or with him rather. It goes down into the abyss. It's given the keys to the shaft of the abyss, rises from the abyss, overpowers and kills the witnesses, as is written in Revelation 11. If you want to understand that, read Revelation 11, read Revelation 9, and Revelation 12. That is when Satan is thrown out of heaven. And what has triumphed over him in order for him to lose his place in heaven is written in Revelation 12. Number 1, the lamb, the blood of the Lamb. And number 2, the testimony of the witnesses who did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Now, there are some people who will argue that the timeline of when the witnesses come, that they don't come until the very end. That's really stupid. It's just stupidity. If you know the word, if you know God's heart, you know in Amos that he says that God does nothing without revealing through his witnesses first, through his prophets. And so when he sends his prophets are doing what? What have the prophets always done? Repent, return to God. Destruction is coming. Now, why would he have them be here during the very last days after he's already handed people over to destruction in the Antichrist reign? Nope, that's not how it happens. So if you read Revelation 12, you will see that Satan is thrown out of the heavenly realms after the witnesses have testified. Then he goes to wage war against God's people for 3.5 years, a time times and half a time. Then there is this 45-day period between the 1290th day and the 1335th day, as spoken of in Daniel 12, in which the dragon spews water out of his mouth, but the earth opens up to help the woman and swallows up the water. Then he's enraged at the woman and he goes off to wage war against her offspring. So these are all the chapters that if you would like to read it yourself, Revelation 12, Daniel 12, Revelation 9, Revelation 11. But it's very clear from Revelation 12 that that is the timeline of the witnesses, that they are prophesying at the beginning of that 7-year period, and that in the middle of that 7-year period, the daily sacrifice, their daily sacrifice, is abolished, and the temple is thrown down. They are the temple, they are the sacrifice. Why am I talking about this? All of this you need to know, because I take this extremely seriously. That's why I'm talking about it. These are the times that we're living in. The times that we are living in, right now at this point in history, we have less than 2 years before the witnesses are killed. I have been telling you this for a long time, and there's a lot of people on this channel who have been listening to this message for a long time. Some have fallen off. Some are just coming on, but I'm telling you right now that what I'm saying is true, and that when God fulfills this, it should bear witness to you. God is doing something massive right now in what he's doing with my particular situation with the building and everything that I've given up in order to serve him. When he fulfills this, there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot hinging on what he's doing right now. It's not just about whether or not he's going to take care of me. It's about revealing whether what I've been saying is true and whether I am true or I'm a phony. I mean, that is really what it comes down to. Am I true or am I false? Am I a fraud? Has this been a false alarm? Should I be scared? I mean, not if I know my God. There are moments where I feel, it just stresses me out. Like, when are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? I would imagine Noah probably felt the same, waiting for God to fulfill and being mocked and ridiculed. It's incredibly stressful. There is a lot hinging on this right now. There are a lot of people watching to see what he's going to do. Am I a fraud or not? Is he going to testify to what I've been telling you, or has this been a false alarm? There are people in the body who have been fasting for a long time now. I think for about a month. Have been doing, some sort of a modified fast, looking for this, watching for it, believing in it, and they are enduring some of this warfare that happens in this time of testing, in which God is building us. He's strengthening us. And I want to tell you something. Those who are participating in Sabbath and these different assemblies that we have, and Bible study, assembling all the more as the day approaches, workshop, learning how to engage in their covenant, these are the wise. This is who God talks about when he talks about the wise who are going to instruct many. If you're just sitting here, getting fed every day, and you don't care about the body, you don't care about showing up and doing anything, reciprocating what you're receiving, you're going to be here longer. I'm just going to say it like that because that's the truth, and you need to know why you're going to be here longer, because you're being foolish. You know the word, you have the word, or you should know the word, and you can look it up, that he tells you these things. You need to assemble all the more as the day approaches, that when you're assembling, that you are each supposed to bring something. 1 Corinthians 14. Everyone is supposed to bring something. You're supposed to be built by God during the week, and you are supposed to participate in your covenant. If you're not doing these things, and you know that the word says these things, I mean, what else can you be but foolish? Come on, guys. You can't justify yourself as being one of the wise and having anything to go out and teach anybody. And you're walking a fine line, because if you don't get that before that fifth trumpet blows, you will not make it. I just proved it to you in scripture. And so, if these are new things to you, go pray about it. Ask him for yourself. Read the word. But don't be so foolish as to disregard it and forsake your salvation. Your blood will not be on my head, because I have been speaking this message for a long time, and I intend to continue to speak it even unto death. I will die for this message. I've told you since day one, I will die for this message. And you should be able to see the pieces coming together of what I've been telling you this past year and a half on this channel. Well, over a year and a half now. You should be able to see the pieces starting to come together of what I've taught you in end times, and what I've been showing you in the world coming together right now. When God called me in 2019, he spoke with me about the churches, the universities, or the system of education, and science, the field of science, psychology, medicine. And he said that these systems attempt to covet and usurp his glory. and his sovereignty over his creations. Have you seen it happen since 2019? Just wondering, because in 2020, we started receiving mandatory requirements for vaccinations. You will submit to medicine or you will not have freedom. What do you see happening right now in counterfeit Christianity? Do you see things called revival? What is revival in the word? Revival means when you cross over from death to life. It's not a hippie movement. And it's kind of interesting that I've been saying that for a while. This is not a hippie movement, because now there have been, shows like Jesus Revolution and The Chosen, in which Jesus is just this dumb hippie that goes around coddling everyone in their sin. Oh, well, everybody's a sinner. Everybody's flawed. Doesn't matter if you're engaging in homosexual behavior, pornography, messaging young girls as a pastor. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, God uses the flawed, right? No, God doesn't use people who continue to deliberately sin. So you see all of these distortions of Christianity. All of this, like, you're going to accommodate to us, God, not us to you. Well, what do you see in the system of education, guys? Do you see the disgusting coveting of people's children? Of the role and authority that God has given parents over their children? Do you see what your children are being exposed to day in and day out, while you probably spend, 2 hours with them, and most of that time is busy? That's not what God established. He appointed you to raise those babies. What else do you see going on in medicine? Do you also see them coveting your children? Claiming that they're the wrong gender, that they're the wrong creation? I mean, the creator just messed up. I mean, they don't even acknowledge the creator. You evolved, supposedly. Now you can get your children taken away if you don't agree with their satanic ideology. What else do you see going on in the churches? Never in my lifetime would I have thought that I would see counterfeit Christianity giving their approval, their blind, stupid approval for the murder of Palestinians, all because they think they're going to that ethnic Jews are going to fulfill their covenant for them, because they do not acknowledge God. They don't know the word. They are irreligious, counterfeit Christians who are of that synagogue of Satan. There is no way God would ever condone what these people are doing. Think about what you're seeing. You don't have to just listen to me. You shouldn't listen to me, taking my word for it. You need to go to God. You need to ask him. I've told you that from day one. You need to ask him, is what I'm saying true? Am I his or not? Test my spirit. Discern my fruit. Am I from him or not? Now, please go do that.